I think season 2 is bigger, better, crazier, more.
There's a real intelligence behind the world building of this show.
It's more gritty and raw and intense.
Okay, here we go. Action. These characters are almost adults now. They're adults with extraordinary powers, they're adults with extraordinary knowledge, they're adults with extraordinary flaws, but that they are moving further and further away from childish things. And I think that's really one of the great themes of Lev's trilogy, and one of the main characters in his books is just time.
It was our job and our pleasure to develop the side characters to make them a true ensemble to work with Quentin.
I don't think any of these characters are emotionally aware at all. I think that that's what they're growing into.
It's about grief, and it's about mourning, and it's about collapsing in on yourself.
I know how you feel, man.
You do have to ask for help sometimes, and it's okay. I think that rings very true for all of us.
On this show, we're making a strong statement, I think, about just how screwed up it is to leave somebody out in the cold and how difficult it is to be someone with no support.
Action.
He loves me. He loves me not.
It was like stepping back into something. We weren't rookies anymore. There wasn't as much a fear or anxiety around, can I do this?
A lot of this stuff is sort of in your bones, but there is sort of, I did feel like a bit of a danger in that, you know, like could be easy to come back and do the caricature of Quentin.
Where I come from, there's a legend about a witch and a cottage made of candy.
It was important for me to find what is the evolution, even if it's very small.
The thing that I like most about the transition from the books to the television series is that there's room for certain characters to grow more and to be consistently featured.
Because that's my focus. I think it's just the continual discovery of what elements they're going to bring from the books into who Katie is.
We stay true to the books by staying true to the characters. And none of them are the same at the end of Lev's third book as they were in the first book.
We put everyone on this show through so much insane, terrible crap. Just bad things happen to everybody.
It's hard to learn from your mistakes, but I think that she's trying, and I think that she's constantly just intaking as much information as possible and wanting to shape and shift and change and grow.
One of my favorite things that I got to explore at the end of the season was getting her back to realizing how beautiful it is to be a human. And that touch and sense and love is more enjoyable than anything she probably experienced as a Niffin.
Something you want to say?
I love the aesthetic. I love the look of it. I think the filters on the cameras and the tones and the darkness of it is super appealing for me.
I think we've really expanded the playground, and using even more parts of Vancouver. It's been really thrilling where we've gotten to go.
Felt like we were getting a pinhole view of all of these worlds last season because it was about us experiencing them for the first time. Those first things you notice, and that's all we got to focus it on. But now this year we open up and we get to see and experience so much more of Fillory and of Earth and of New York and how full they are and how they're bumping into each other constantly and how they're interfering with each other.
Unless it's literally police caution tape, you won't see much yellow in these other worlds because they wanted to add yellow when we got to Fillory, and finally you would feel the complete spectrum.
Fillory gives the show a much more epic feeling, and it grounds the show with stakes, I think, that go between worlds. There's a much greater sense of scope.
The thing that most excites me about Fillory is how unpredictable it is. It has its own life and mind. It's its own organism.
Fillory is a place that was created by two gods, Ember and Umber. One is a creature of total control and order, and one is a creature of total chaos. In a way, this season, we see those two elements of chaos and control collide at last. And we see that underneath the whimsy of Fillory are some very dangerous and unsettled issues.
In the books, Ember and Umber are actually just rams who talk. And we wanted actors for our characters to work off of.
I love the design of how they look. I thought that was the perfect combination of like animal and human.
Ember is a whimsical, childlike, fantastical guy, and there's something great about that because there's so much magic in Fillory that there's no real cause or explanation for. It's just there because it's cool. But the flip side of that is Ember is childish, he's very adolescent, he's very selfish, he's a bit of a malignant narcissist. And as we find out by the end of the season, if it starts to get boring, he throws a wrench in the works.
I'm leaving. I'm going. I just had 1 or 2 things to do. Mainly number 2. I never tire of these jokes. Ta! Fillory is a place that is physically beautiful. It has many different societies, and underneath every delight, there is usually some terrible secret.
It's definitely not the fairy tale that the characters thought it would be.
Listen, princess, I'm not a sharer. So why don't you walk yourself and your unironic furs out of my castle?
I could talk about the throne room all day. It's so stunning and it's so expansive.
I walked in and I thought, oh my God, it's so magical. From the colors to the crescent moon in the ceiling, it's unreal. You're in another planet.
You feel like you are in regal court. It's huge and it's beautiful and it evokes this feeling of power and authority.
You are all kings and queens of Fillory. Well, almost all of you.
Our designers are insanely talented and so instrumental to what is successful about this show.
If you look at the blueprint from above, it's in the shape of a ram's head. Also, you'll notice that there are vines hanging down from the ceiling. That's because the castle is alive with magic. And when the magic is running through the wellspring and all is well, the vines are very lush and green and the light is very golden. And when things are in trouble, it's a little sparser. It's something we can control that's subtle, but we do adjust that from scene to scene.
Some of the members of the cabinet, Tick Pickwick, Rafe, Abigail, the Sloth, bring such comedic relief, but also so much more dimension. You, Sloth, you read me?
The White Lady is an entirely built creature. 9 hours of makeup, full body prosthetics. Emma Dumont, who played the character, she just amazes me. She's a ballet dancer and there's nothing she can't do with her body. She endured some craziness to transform into the White Lady.
We shot in Robert Burnaby Park and the White Lady came on and it was so lush and so green and the cameras were really far away from us and we were just in this green, luscious, otherworldly physical location, and then the prosthetics at Masters FX and what they did with Emma. That was the easiest acting I've ever had to do, just from how real everything was around, and that was so exciting.
I want my hands back.
That's what I can do.
What did you do to him?
That screaming was irritating. He'll wake when he's healed.
Action clip, crack!
The magic and the practical effects has gotten bigger because the stakes have been raised. My character gets to do a lot more spell work, tutting, and practical magic.
Start the wind.
I think on this show we get to play imaginary so often, and it's very childlike for us. Stop ignoring me, stop ignoring me, stop ignoring me. Now that the season is much bigger than last year, we did do a lot of green screen work too.
We were on set and I was picked up by a big green man. They're gonna superimpose him out of it, and he was picking us up and throwing us. We were actually physically witnessing it and experiencing it, and that made it so real for us.
Hello, Professor Mayakovsky. No! We have an amazing special effects team, and we have an amazing stunt department. I've gotten strung up at the ceiling, and then I've gotten to fly twice.
Let me down! I'm a student!
Green screens are fine, but I'd rather, it's better in person.
I love this.
I love where they've taken the series this year. I just feel like everything is expanded, everything is evolved, and everything is heightened.
It's dark, the stakes are turned way up. And if anyone's going to have some hope about a positive future on the whole situation, it's got to be Dean Fogg.
The show is about being human and humanity, and I think Alice this season, you really get to see what that means on a very literal level.
The characters are really starting to evolve. They're not the characters that you met at the beginning of season 1.
I think we have something to say about the inherent heroism of just being yourself and how there is a way to kind of crack the code on living and thriving, even if you don't easily fit in.
And the fact that there's no magic at the end of season 2, in a way, is the ultimate reality.
I didn't know how they were going to wrap up the finale at all. So it's definitely a surprise.
It was great last year, and it's even better this year.